Our Old Testament lesson this morning is from 1 Samuel chapter 3, verses 1 through 10. Now the boy Samuel was serving the Lord under Eli. The Lord's word was rare at that time, and visions weren't widely known. One day Eli, whose eyes had grown so weak he was unable to see, was lying down in his room. God's lamp hadn't gone out yet, and Samuel was lying down in the Lord's temple where God's chest was. The Lord called to Samuel. "I'm here," he said. Samuel hurried to Eli and said, "I'm here. You called me?" "I didn't call you," Eli replied. "Go lie down." So he did. Again the Lord called Samuel, so Samuel got up, went to Eli, and said, "I'm here. You called me?" "I didn't call, my son," Eli replied. "Go and lie down." Now Samuel didn't yet know the Lord, and the Lord's word hadn't yet been revealed to him. A third time the Lord called Samuel. He got up, went to Eli, and said, "I'm here. You called me?" Then Eli realized that it was the Lord who was calling the boy. So Eli said to Samuel, "Go and lie down. If he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down where he'd been. Then the Lord came and stood there, calling just as before, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel said, "Speak, your servant is listening." May God bless the reading of this holy word.
May we all continue to be inspired. How many parents have been awakened in the middle of the night to a child who's saying, "Mommy, Mommy, did you call? I've had a bad dream," right? I've had a bad dream. And how many of you have said, "Go back to bed"? Right? Because the reality is that God is calling. God is calling, and God is oftentimes calling in the middle of the night. We're going to sing the closing song today. Some of you are going to be moved from every cell and bone in your body. Hear God calling you. "Here I am, Lord, send me," we hear in the scriptures. So here's what you need to know about the boy Samuel, who's living in the temple, hanging out with the priest, right, being instructed. They were not familiar with God's voice being heard in the middle of the night. It was not a familiar thing, but God was calling the boy in the night. Go back to bed, Eli says. And what I want you to know is it's a period of history that's very, very important. It's a period of history where they're moving from a time of judges to a time of kings. That means the location of the power base was going to change from a tribal culture where God's in charge to a time where they're going to elect human leadership, right? So Samuel is being called at this time in the life of the Hebrew people. And then he's told that he's got to take down his teacher because the teacher and the sons were not doing a good job at what they were doing. So Samuel is moving from judge to prophet. An important distinction as we move from students and learning to people who can then learn to speak out against what's wrong in the world. We move from being students to being prophets. God is calling each and every one of you to do God's work, to be loving in the world, to know peace, to share grace with your friends, to forgive your family, right? Because things are not always going to be easy. Samuel hears the voice 4 times. And I don't know how many times y'all have heard the voice of God calling and remained in your pews thinking, I wonder what that is. Some say that God taps and then whispers and then hits you over the head, right? God is calling. But what I want to do for you this morning, and as we plan our summer worship, we're going to be using our technology a little bit more, and we're going to be watching some movie clips this summer. There's also something really exciting happening for the kids. There's going to be a time where the kids can all go outside and play after the children's message. or stay for the videos, which are going to be instructive, and I'm going to show you one in a minute. So what's exciting is, for all of you who listen for God, I want to expand your understanding of what it means to listen for God. Because it's not just about hearing, it's about so much more. And what I might suggest to all of us this morning is to realize and remember that when you pause to listen for God, you are fulfilling the commandments. Wow, that's huge. It's simple and amazing. So we have to believe that God is calling and listen for God's call. The words were away.
For thousands of years, every morning and evening, Jewish people have prayed these well-known words as a way of expressing their devotion to God. They're called the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And as for you, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your strength. Now the first word of the Shema is hear, or listen, which in Hebrew is pronounced Shema. That's where the prayer gets its name. Now Shema is a really common word in the Hebrew Bible, and it's obvious why. Hearing is a very universal activity. It's usually connected with the ear, as in Proverbs chapter 20, ears that shema and eyes that see, the Lord has made them both. Now that seems basic enough, but if you look at the other ways that Hebrew authors can use the word Shema, they use it to mean more than just let sound waves enter your ear. In Hebrew, Shema can also mean pay attention to or focus on. So when Leah, who wasn't loved by her husband Jacob, she has a son, and she names him Simon, or in Hebrew, Shimon, because she says, the Lord has shama'd, that I am unloved. So Shema means to hear and to pay attention to, and even more. It can also mean responding to what you hear. This is why so many of the cries for help in the book of Psalms begin with a call that God listen. Psalm 27, verse 7. Shema my voice when I call, O Lord. Be merciful. Answer me. So asking God to Shema is at the same time asking God to act, to do something. It's similar to when God asks people to listen. Like when the people of Israel come to Mount Sinai, God says, if you Shema me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession. Now there's a couple interesting things about this verse in Exodus. In Hebrew, the word Shema is repeated twice in this sentence to give it emphasis. If you Shema, Shema, meaning listen closely. But also notice that from God's point of view, listening is basically the same as keeping the covenant. So when God asks the people to Shema, what he means is that they listen and obey. And that's the last fascinating thing about Shema. In ancient Hebrew, there is no separate word for obey, meaning to carry out the wishes of someone who knows better than you or is in authority over you. So in the Bible, if you want to say, I will listen and do what you say, you use the single word, Shema. In Hebrew, listening and doing are two sides of the same coin. This is why later in Israel's history, when the people were breaking their covenant promises to God, the Hebrew prophets would say things like, they have ears, but they're not listening. The Israelites, of course, could hear just fine, but they weren't actually listening, or else they would act differently. And so in the end, listening in the Bible is about giving respect to the one speaking to you and doing what they say. Real listening takes effort and action, and that's the Hebrew word Shema. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Bible Project. We hope this video was helpful. It's part of a brand new series called Word Studies, and we hope to make a whole bunch more.
We believe the Bible is a unified story that leads to Jesus and has profound wisdom for the modern world. You can watch all of our videos here on YouTube and check us out on our website, thebibleproject.com. Thanks.
So, yeah, don't go online and watch them all, because we might watch a few more, we'll keep you posted on that. But, can it be that simple that we would listen for God through God's Word, through God's Word, through the lyrics to the music and the songs? Is it possible that just by listening for God, we are obeying the Lord just by doing what we believe. I'll tell you the passage that's been most transformed for me. You might remember at Jesus' baptism. Jesus is baptized in the River Jordan by John. He comes up from the water, and what does God's voice say? This is my son, listen to him. Shema. Listen to him. Hear what he teaches. Understand what he teaches. Respond to what he teaches. And you are living out the way of the Lord. When we listen, we are automatically in communion with God. And one of the most obvious ways that we do that is by celebrating at God's table. We are listening and we are responding. And God is blessing us for the work and the call that is before us. Amen.